the word tools a lot. I need this to set up the tools for the rest of this process. As soon as you get this needs analysis back to me, we will set up an appointment for you to come in, and we will sit down and do a buyer's consultation.
Yes, please. Or
Any
go back to the
questions
first
so
page
far?
first.
Okay. So they get qualified, they fill out the needs analysis, and then they send it to me, and we're in business. There you go. Okay. Let me backtrack a little bit here.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna go drink a bottle of vodka. I like my
Save
tomato
some
juice.
for me. Okay, so, all right, so okay, there we go. So I have showed you all the folder, and again, one of the things that I'm going to do when we actually break for lunch and or at the end of the class, I've brought 8 of these in, and I'll let you guys take a look at them and kind of touch and feel and really look at them. The only thing that I ask is that you don't get any pizza on them if we're at the lunch break. So that was just a copy of my folder. Okay, so here's the emails that I wanted to show you, and I can make some points. So you've done the telephone consult and appointment. Then I send them the email with the needs analysis. Here's the actual email. It was a pleasure to speak with you today. As promised, I'm sending along the needs analysis. My needs analysis is long. I'm actually about to kind of redo it a little bit because there's some questions that I want to change around and I want to add. I've got a lot of people downsizing, so I want to add some questions in there about, upsizing, downsizing, and so it's kind of a fluid, it's very fluid. I use Wise Agent, by the way, you all, so all this stuff is coming from Wise Agent. Now, how do I get out of here?
That's your CRM?
What's Wise Agent?
That's your CRM?
It is a CRM. Yeah. So, all right, let's pray that this does not. Okay. So that's the email. This is my attachment, and I'm going to go into this in more detail, but this is my needs analysis. I've got a cover letter on there that talks about it, and we're going to come back to this. I'm going to go ahead and get out. Pre-qualification by lender. Here is my email for my lender. Notice that throughout this process, my branding is very consistent. One of the things that I get comments about all the time, and one of the reasons why I call it my buyer system, is that it is all about consistency. Most buyers come, especially your first-time home buyers, which, by the way, I love first-time home buyers because they're very pliable. And they are nervous. They're very nervous. They're scared about the process. They're, they don't know where to start. So I'm sitting here talking about systems and organization, and this is the way that we do it. And by the time they walk out of my consultation, they are they're a lot more comfortable with the fact that I'm going to be leading them along this process, and they're not doing it alone. So that's my introduction to the lender. Okay, what just happened?
You're there. You're good.
All right. This is my confirmation about the appointment. I just wanted to confirm our meeting. I always put the address of our meeting. If it's at our office, I put it here, and it hyperlinks to a map. Before our appointment, I want to provide you with a little bit more information about me and the company I work with. Why do I do this? Same reason when I walk into a listing presentation, the last thing that I want to do is go over my bio. I do not want to talk about me. In this kind of presentation, it's not about me. I make it all about them and how I'm going to help them. I don't want to talk about my bio. I don't really want to talk about Keller Williams. They're there because, think about it. I've got them hooked up with a lender. They have filled out a needs analysis. They have more clarification about what they want than they did in the beginning already. So I attached my bio and the information about Keller Williams here. Now, this is a copy of my bio, and I tell them, take a look at it. This is my bio. You know, take a look at it. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer it during our appointment. I hope this works. I did a one-page thing on Keller Williams. I just came up with this. You know, #1 real estate company in the U.S., training magazine, you know, 10 happiest companies to work for. Again, I'm giving them information about Keller Williams, but not in excess. If you've got any questions about anything I'm sending you, I'll discuss it with you during the appointment. So I knocked that part out of the way. I used to have it in those, I used to have it in my files, in my books, but I just felt like I was giving them a lot of paper and I knew they weren't gonna look at most of it. This, they look at my bio when I send it to them like this. So, and I've never really had anybody have questions. I have had people say, you know, wow, you've been doing this a while. If you're new in the industry, you know, and you don't want to send them a bio, I've got some thoughts about that. If we have time at the end of class, I can talk to you about that. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is that when I get a referral from somebody, I belong to a BNI group. BNI has very consistently been 35% of my business since the day I got into this group. Every year after year.
And what is BNI?
I'm sorry?
What is BNI?
BNI is it's a closed networking group. It stands for Business Networking International. It's also very much like Power4. Power4 is the same thing. It is, when I say closed networking group, what I mean is that there's one real estate agent, there's one CPA, there's one hairstylist, there's one HVAC guy, there's one of everything, and you get together once a week and you've got your own sales force. I've got close to 40 people in my BNI group, so every week I get together with them. I mean, I've got 40 people looking for a way to give me a referral, and it works. If I make $100,000 in commission one year, 35,000 of that is BNI. I've looked at it, every year I look at it, and it is pretty darn consistent. Actually, last year, I think I may have had more than 35%. So when they send me a referral, if they do a virtual intro on email, and I'm actually responding back to that referral, I'd love to have a telephone conversation with you, I send my bio at that point, so that I'm backing up that referral. You know, because they always say something nice in the email. You know, me as a very successful agent, whatever. And so I come back to them and say, I'd love to have a phone call. By the way, here's my bio, and so I kind of get that out of the way then. So before we even meet, they have 3 emails from me, and they've got two active things that I've had them do. Again, this is all about building rapport and trust. I had an agent say to me the other day when we were talking about buyer's brokerage agreements, I don't have them sign the buyer's brokerage agreement until we do the contract, because it's all about trust. Well, I'll tell you that, every transaction is different. Everything that I'm saying to you, it could be, when I get a $1.5 million buyer, do I go through that needs analysis? Do I send them that needs analysis and say, fill this out? No, I don't. But I do ask a lot of the questions. I mean, that's a whole different ballgame right there. So my point is that when you're over 50% of the people that sit down in a buyer's consultation, they fill out that buyer's brokerage agreement before they even walk out of the door, before they've even gotten in my car. The other, probably about another 30% because I tell them that they don't sign it that day at the buyer consultation, we're gonna sign it on the first trip. So rarely do I have somebody balk at signing it. You know, every once in a while you run across somebody, but you know that you're gonna be okay with them, and I might let that go, but seriously, 80–90% of the time, I've got it signed before I get to my second trip. So, yeah. So, let's talk about the buyer's consultation appointment. Okay, so they come into the room, and, okay, so they come into the room. What you want to make sure that in your buyer's consultation that all the parties are going to be there. I always send them, as you saw in that email that I've sent them that email, and there's a link, whether it's to the office or the Starbucks that we're meeting at or wherever we're meeting. It's actually much better to come into the office because of the screens that we've got. And the reason that I say that is, imagine them coming into the room, and I've got, on that screen, I've got the portal, their website, their personal website. Because what I've done is I've taken that needs analysis, and I've taken that pre-qualification, and I've set it up based on what I'm seeing there. So they come in, and there's a website up with their name on it. It's a psychological thing. They start getting excited right away. I don't send them the link to that portal. What I do is I send it to myself and I activate it. You know how?
You know about the FMLS portal?
Right, I'm talking about the FMLS portal. I put my email address in there. I send all the searches that I set up to me. I activate all of them, and then I have it up on the screen. And then, so that's up on the screen. It's got their name on it. I've got this folder. I've got it sitting out on the table. I've got our buyer consultation. I've got the itinerary here. And I always say, both in my phone call, and I think I may have it in that email, that this is not going to take any longer than an hour. And I can tell you 100% of the time, I've never gone longer than an hour with this.
And that's after you've gotten the consultation back from the email, so you know what to look for.
The needs analysis?
Yeah, the needs
Yes.
analysis, I meant,
Yeah, the needs analysis.
And you
Yeah.
search based on their needs, okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So I've got the website up, the folders out, the itineraries out. I usually have my my FMLS map with me, just in case they've got a really broad search, or I want to show them something on that map. And then I remind them when they're sitting down that this is only going to take an hour. And at that point, I start really paying attention to their body language. Everybody knows the DISC profile, or you should know the DISC profile. I pay very close attention to what my buyer is. That's very, very important, because a lot of times it speaks to the attention span that they're going to have in that buyer consultation. So then I begin buyer consultation. And even though I've gone through this needs analysis, and I've marked all over it. I've highlighted it. I've marked in red all over it. I have, I've got questions written out. I do this so that they know that I've really looked at that needs analysis. And I probably go a little overboard, because it's more about the psychology and the fact that I want them to know that I'm very interested in whatever they wrote. And so at that point I go through the needs analysis. I always have questions, even if I don't have questions. I make up questions, that I want to get clarification on. This is the point where I might say, now, you're saying that you want to buy in Milton, and you're pre-qualified for $250. Are you open to condos and townhomes? In Milton, you know? And so if I see a discrepancy in their needs analysis, I very subtly start addressing that at this point when I'm going through their needs analysis. One of the things that I say, I don't know if you've noticed it in the email, is that a lot of my questions are redundant. It seems like they're redundant, but there is a method to my madness, because you can ask a buyer the same question 3 different ways and you might get 3 different answers. It happens all the time. So I do ask a lot of the same questions. Probably my favorite part of this is ranking these in order. The one that I first started out with, it was a much longer list, and it said rank all of these in order. Well, I mean, that's, you know, that I just felt like that was a little bit overkill. So I took it down to the top 5 factors. You get a lot of information there. And then I go on to ask, you know, what's the property type? What are your must-haves? This is where they're talking to me about their minimum and their maximum. It's always good to notice when you're getting this needs analysis, whether if they qualify for 500, but they're putting their max at 300, note that. And so this is one of the reasons why I have them fill this out. You know, the normal stuff here, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. It's really funny to see that sometimes, because they have no concept of, you know, you get a lot of interesting answers. Where will you spend most of your time? It's, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's the kitchen. You know, outdoor needs, indoor needs, these are specifics about the homes. Then I get into some personal information. Tell me a little bit about yourself. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you want to live? That always, you know, usually you get some pretty funny answers there. So it just adds a little bit of lightness. That, you know, the fact that they want to live in New Zealand, does that give me any information at all? No. But it's just a fun topic of conversation, and I'm trying to bring a little bit of personal, you know, personal fun into it. What kind of work do you do? Here is where I am trying to find out how they want for me to communicate with them. Extremely important piece of information. Have you bought a home before? Have you worked with an agent? Was it a good, you know, was it a good experience? Was it a bad experience? Do you feel comfortable signing a buyer's agreement? Most people actually say yes, or they leave it blank. One of the two. They're waiting to see. Then I talked to them about their needs and priorities. Now remember what I was saying about asking them the same questions over a couple of different ways. Up at the first page I was saying, what are the 3 things? Oh no, I was like, what's the most important room in the house, or where does everybody gather? Here I'm asking, what is your favorite room in the home? What is your size requirement? I've already asked what their square footage was. What design do they like? Then I find out about the motivation and ability. You know, are they renting? Do they have a lease? When is it up? Do they have another house to sell? You know, what is their, you know, what's the urgency level? All these different questions. And then other important consideration, what are their hobbies and leisure activities? I've actually already asked that question twice before they get to this one. Do you have any pets? And that's always, you know, that always gets filled out. You know, fence, all of that, school requirements, then the financial qualifications. Sometimes they don't even fill this out because they know they've got the letter. But any questions about that?
So how many pages is that?
A lot.
Well, I have a question about the mechanics of it.
It's
Do
9.
you tell them to print that out, fill it out, and scan it back to you, or how do you get it back from them before the meeting if they're
Usually actually, if they've got I send it to them in PDF. So if they've got a PDF writer, they do that. A lot of my younger buyers do it that way, but I have quite a few that will fill it out in handwriting and scan it back to me. I never, y'all, I know I heard the, really, 9 pages? I've never had anybody complain about it, ever. And I've been using the same needs analysis, you know, just kind of making a few changes. Actually, it's only 8 pages, that's my life. You know, I've been using the same one for probably 10 years, and I've never had anybody complain. So, again, you're asking them about themselves, you know, and people love to talk about themselves. It was Dale Carnegie, who was the very first book that I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People, and he goes a lot about, you know, in that book about, you know, people will think you're the most interesting person in the world if all you do is ask them questions. And it's true. So people, you know, and they know that you're interested when you're asking them to fill this out. Any other questions?
I didn't know if you might have put a link to a, you know, to an online form document that they could fill out online and not have to go through all that. So some people are going to that.
Yeah, well, you could do that. That's, I mean, there's a million needs analysis out there. Write your own. You know, do it your way. This way works for me. I'm working a lot with, I've got the senior real estate specialist, so I'm working with some, you know, people that aren't necessarily wanting to be on the computer all the time. So for somebody like that, I'll actually print this thing out and give it to them. I mean, if I need to. I mean, that's one of my questions that I'm asking in the initial phone conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you present this to them, they fill it out, you go over it, review it, do they keep it or do they give it back to you?
They give it back to me. Okay, now remember, I've gotten this back before I
Either by
even.
email or,
Yeah, I've gotten this back. I keep it, so they've got a copy of it. They've got a copy of it on theirs. But my copy, I do go ahead and print it out and I mark it up. And again, I don't do that for me, I do it for them. I do it so that they know that I've gone through it with a fine-tooth comb. And so I keep that part of it, okay? Okay. Moving on, the customized personal website. So basically what I do, this is the, remember I've activated all these. So this was, seriously? South Fulton, Cobb County, I don't know. I think I must have done that for one of my classes or something. So I usually have all the searches set up here, depending on what their search criteria is, how I set it up. If I can get away with just one search, I will, but usually it's 1 or 2 searches. And I like to start them out with the page that shows the searches. It's very confusing to them when they get these emails, you know, the automatic emails in the morning. That's really confusing to them. And I go out of my way to explain this, by the way. I go out of my way to show them an email that I get in the morning. You know, because I have myself set up on some. So I'll say, here's the email. I'll show them what the email looks like. I'll click on the link, show them what page it's going to take them to, and then I show them how to get back to the home page. I always want them to figure out how to get back to the home page where all the searches are. If they've got more than one search, that's really, really important. I demonstrate how to use it. Again, I'm calling it a tool the whole time. I discuss ways to use the tool to collaborate among themselves. I let them know. You can write notes on it. You can write notes back and forth to each other, you know. He gets on there with his initials and he says, you know, I love the yard. She gets on there and says, I hate the kitchen. You know, but they're talking and they're both, if they're not looking at this at the same time, they're at least talking to each other within this system. I also am very, there's 3 things that I tell them about marking these to go into your favorites folder. One is, if you think you like something, I just want you to mark it with a possibility. Does everybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I want you to mark it with a possibility. if you absolutely love it, must see it on our trip, I want you to mark it with a heart. Because if you're not careful, you are gonna get way too many hearts, you know, on here, and it's, or red hearts. And, it can get very, very confusing. And I also tell them, do not ever, until we've gone out a couple of times and we really have a good idea of what you all are excited about, I do not want you to put anything in the trash can. The reason that you don't want to do that, let's say that, you know, their range is 300 to 400. And something comes in at 400 and they're like, oh, I don't really like that, and they get rid of it. Well, if that price dropped to 350, might they be interested in it again? Right. If it's in that trash can, it will not come back. If it's not in the trash can, they will get a notice that there was a price reduction. And I make sure that they understand the mechanics behind that. And then I talk about how we'll communicate. Now, I'm guessing that we all in this room have had the phone call about, well, there is this house on sale, and it is not on your website. And so, you know, I invariably, you know, and I tell them, you know, if you go and find something on another website, it's either really not on the market, it's off market, or there's something about it that doesn't fit your criteria. And so, you know, and I can't tell you how many times they say it's fit the criteria, and I go and look at it, and it doesn't. And I don't like go, no, but I'm like, it doesn't fit this criteria, but do you want to look at it? You know, I mean, I keep making that point with them over and over and over. But I gotta tell you, the last couple of years, I haven't had as much of a problem with that as I used to have with that. Now, I think I sell them enough on this system that they trust it more. And I talk about how when, you know, the day or a couple of days before we go out on our first buyer trip, I am going to, I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna look at their favorites folder. And I'm gonna pull things from their, I'll definitely pull everything that's got a red heart on it. And I'm gonna fill in with their yellows. And after the first trip, I'll start filling in on my own. I don't want them to think that I'm just relying on this. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Yes?
Leah, when you're with them, explaining all this, do you actually, are you in the program?
Yeah.
When you're
I'm in their
explaining?
website.
And you're showing them how to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, before we come off of the website, I change the email address. I go into the system, I do that while they're sitting there. I go into the system, I change the email address so that they're gonna get it, and then I forward them the link that I had gotten earlier that day or the day before or whatever. I forward that email to them and tell them they can start with that. But the next morning, they're gonna start getting emails for their website. Everybody follow that?
Yes.
All right. So, part 3. Now, you know what? I just realized something. We have skipped. Oh, shoot. How do you go? Yeah, on the buyer's consultation. So, this is something that I'm sorry, I skipped this part. I told you that I have the itinerary out here. I tell them we're going to talk about the needs analysis, we're going to talk about the personal side introduction, and then we're going to talk about the process and other information. So once you have done, once you have gone through the needs analysis, the website, you're on to the part 3. You see why this doesn't take a lot of time? Because I'm not really going into a ton of detail. I'm giving them the tools, basically I'm giving them the tools to get excited, is what I'm doing. So one of the important questions I ask before I start to get into my folder is, who's the detail person? Who's the reader? Most of the time, it's one or the other. Every once in a while, I will get, I'll get, both of them will say, well, we both read. Okay, well then this is your job. It's really important for you all to take a look at some of the stuff that I'm going to give you. And then I tell them, this is another tool. You're gonna walk out of this with you today, and I want you to keep everything that we do in this folder. When we go on our buyer's trip, I usually have a kind of a clean, this is not a clean one, but I usually have a clean one. I'm gonna give you one of these on our buyer's trip, and this is something that you can keep it in, so you can keep it all together and all organized. So it's another tool for them. And then, so now let's go through some of the things that I've got in here. Now remember that I've done the pre-qualification with the lender, okay? I'm usually sending them to the person that I know is going to that I've worked with a lot. I'm sending them to the person that I hope that they are going to use. But as a real estate agent, I am bound to give them a choice of 3. And I make sure they know that when I'm making that introduction on the pre-qualification. I'm going to give you to Matt Lipp. He will pre-qualify you very, very quickly. We need that information to get started. But in the end, if you want to shop, that's your prerogative. You don't ever want to tell them that this is who you want them to use. And so we're bound to give them a list of 3. So I have a form here, choosing a lender, and I talk about, the different things that you want to look at when choosing a lender. And there is my list of 3. It's in the folder. They can't ever say that I didn't give them a list of 3. I tell them that all 3 of these are people that I've worked with, and all 3 of them I trust all 3 of them to do a very good job. This is another thing that I've got in here, and I think that we've got this on the QuapNet, I think. I love this one, especially when I'm working with my first-time home buyers. I actually go through this one a little bit in more detail. I talk about the other things that they're going to, that they're gonna have to pay. This is where I start getting into the due diligence period. And one of my scripts is, when we find a home that you like, it's, I really want you to understand that before we get out of due diligence, you are going to be spending anywhere between $800 and $1,500 to do your due diligence. They've got to buy an appraisal. They've got to buy, if they, we're supposed to tell them about surveys. So if they may or may not choose to do that, a survey within the due diligence, but I talk about surveys. They've got the application of broker fees. They've got the cost of the inspection. Then I talk about the legal fees, property insurance, I might talk a little bit about escrows at that point. But these are just, the other 13 things that they need to know about that they're going to probably have to come out of pocket to purchase this home. Or they could come out of pocket. This is, my first-time home buyers especially really like this one. So I've left that in there. The other thing that I have in there is I talk about home warranties and inspections. I talk about the different kinds of home inspections. And I have my list of 3 inspectors. Now, when it comes down to it, 9.7 out of 10 just say, Mia, can you book the inspection? They've got this list of 3. My question back to them is always, well, I gave you a list of 3. Do you not want to interview them? Nobody ever wants to interview them. I actually did have one girl the other day do it. She's a nurse. Very high on this profile, very high S. She did, she called and interviewed every one of them. So anyway, I always do 3 lenders, 3 inspectors, yes, sir.
Do you, it's like how your clients say, just go ahead and just pick one? Do you get them to send it to you in writing?
Yes, always.
Absolutely.
I have a stupid email. I mean, it's crazy.
Right.
I have
But you
over
gotta cover
10,000
yourself.
emails in my email box. I mean, I don't, yeah, and all my client emails go into a folder. I'm on Gmail, I guess all of us are probably on, most of us are on Gmail. I create a file for every client, and every piece of correspondence that goes back, I keep an email chain.
Correct.
And I have to tell you, you just have to go through one issue about who said what, and you'll, from then on out, you'll never do it again. And you'll keep all your emails, don't delete them. So, okay. So those are some of the, let's see, here's some more things that are in my guide. So this is a flow chart. Flow charts are important. I don't go through it all the way to the end, but some of the things that I say about this is, okay, so we've already, created the first 2. We've done the needs analysis, we've gotten pre-qualified. Now we're going on to the property search, which is what this website is doing for you. And then we're gonna do property tours. This is where I start getting in a little bit into the way that I do my buyer tours. And as you know, as the market changes, the way that we do our tours change. I love to work with my buyers during the week, not at rush hour, but during the week. And I let them know that if we're gonna go look at 7 to 10 houses on a given day, the first trip out, I like to try to cram a lot in. It's gonna be about 3 to 4 hours. My Saturdays and Sundays, I have 3 slots on Saturdays and Sundays. I have a morning slot, I have an afternoon slot on Saturday, and on Sunday, I just have an afternoon slot. Now, do I bend that when I've got $1 million buyer in from out of town? You betcha. But I start out letting them know that my weekends are crowded, and that I can only really fit in 3 buyer trips. I don't want to take on a buyer that wants to start at 11 o'clock and keep me from 11 to 2. I don't have time for anybody else after that. I don't want to work until 8 o'clock on Saturday. So you really have to kind of set your own parameters. If you go to church on Sunday mornings, it's just not available, period, end of story. You guys, this is where I set a lot of my boundaries when I'm talking about my buyer trips. Most of my buyer trips are 3 hours. A lot of people think that they're going to be with me all day, and it's not going to happen. And I tell them, after 7 to 10 houses, you're going to be exhausted. And they are. You guys, you've done this. I mean, they are. They're very tired. So I start creating this is when I start creating those, what am I looking for? When I start creating the boundaries and the kind of the rules that we're going to stay within. And again, the buying process, I know that there's one on Keller Williams, right?
Ignite Toolkit has
Yeah.
one, yes.
Yeah, so it's good. Consumer brochures. I actually insist on them reading this. And when I get my buyers brokerage signed, I make them initial these. It's hard. My buyers, when I send something to them in DocuSign, I will have my buyer's brokerage. I'll have the buyer's brokerage, and I'll have the anti-fraud thing, wire fraud. I have that. I've got the marketing disclosure that we have to have them sign, I've got that behind it. And then I've got every consumer brochure that applies to them. If I know I'm going out with somebody that's interested in a condo, that disclosure is in there. The two that are always in there, when you look at these folders, they'll be in there, is protect yourself when buying a home and the flood plain one, the flood one. I always have those in there. And I've got them all highlighted. I don't print them out highlighted like this. I actually print them out in gray tone because I don't want to spend the money on the color copies. But I tell them to pay, close attention to this, and I think, like right here, I've highlighted something about the cyber fraud that I want them to be, very cognizant of. And I tell them, it's your homework to read this, and I'm gonna have you initial it, that you have read it.
Electronically or in person, or either?
If they sign up the consultation, I actually send it to them later. If they sign the buyer's brokerage there, what I do is I scan it, and I still put it on top of that stack that I just talked about, but I don't have them, I might have them initial it, but I have them sign and initial everything else behind it. And then I usually have my buyer's brokerage in there. And I've actually marked the things that I want to bring to their attention. The fact that I don't practice dual agency, I explained to them what dual agency is. And that I'm an independent contractor, and that my commission is usually anywhere between 3 and 3.5%. I'm making sure that they're not under brokerage with anybody else, under a brokerage agreement with anybody else. So I go through this. I've highlighted things that I want them to be aware of. And I tell them at that, I tell them when we're looking at it, a lot of times by now their eyes are starting to glaze over. And I'm not gonna make them sit there and read it if I can tell that they're just not able to, they're just not doing it. What I will say is, if you're more comfortable, why don't you take this home, read it, highlight the things that you want to ask me questions about, and I'll answer them the first time you're in my car. And then invariably, sometime within that first buyer's trip, in one of the houses, I will, I'll pull that buyer's brokerage agreement out and say, are you ready to sign? Do you have any questions about this? It's one of the first questions I ask when they get in my car. Do you have any questions about the buyer's brokerage agreement that I gave you to read? And if they do, they will. They usually say, no, here, I've signed it. I'll just wait till we get to it. You guys, people sign these things. If you sell them on yourself in this consultation, they will sign this unasked. It's not that big of a deal. And if it is a big deal, you want to pay attention to that, because maybe you don't want to sign the buyer's brokerage agreement with them. Seriously. I also put a sample purchase and sale agreement in there. On that one, I actually, I used the one with the watermark. I didn't put a copy of it on here, but I used, you can put a watermark from FMLS on there, and it says sample, and I have that on there. And then I'm going into a little bit more detail about, all right, so let me give you a couple of my scripts here. I talk about the negotiation at some point during all this. I don't talk about the way that I negotiate. What I say is, when you decide to make an offer on a home, we will have a discussion and we will come to agreement on our negotiation tactic. We'll all be in agreement. Not to say that that tactic won't change halfway through, but we are going to agree on the way we're doing this. So I just want them to know that, because as you know, there's a lot of people that think they're the best negotiator in the world, and they're going to want to negotiate their way. Fine, we'll play it your way, if we need to, and we'll see how that goes. But I don't want to step on anybody. You know, I don't wanna say, well, here's the way I negotiate. We're gonna be in agreement and, you know, so that, I pretty much leave it at that. The other thing that I go into quite a bit is the due diligence period. Especially if you're working with a first-time home buyer, or even somebody that hasn't bought a home in a long time, they are floored by what happens during that due diligence period or the pre-qualification period. You know, versus the way that it used to go 10 years ago. I mean, it is so, it's like drinking from a fire hose. And I use that term. It's, you know, which is one reason why it would be a good idea to get pre-approved versus pre-qualified. Go ahead and get all the paperwork in that you can, get as much done as you can, because during the due diligence period, we're gonna have a whole nother slew of things that we've gotta work through. So I talk about that due diligence period because if people are gonna get stressed, that's where they do it. That's where they get stressed out, is during that period of time. Any questions on that? No, they're easy. Okay, one of the things that you'll see in my folders, at the back of the folders, and I always go over this, is that I have got a very comprehensive list of my trusted home service professionals. And this is actually an old copy of it. The one that I have now is up to 3 pages long. But this is my air conditioning guy, my alarm lady, who I use for carpet cleaning, chimney repair, concrete replacement, flooring, painting, windows, you know, all the different vendors that they might need are in this list. And I've got that in the folder. And then the other thing that I've got is a lot of them will do discounts or coupons, or they've got their own brochures, so I put this in the folder also. This also, by the way, goes into my sellers folder. So that's pretty much, and by the way, the strategic email and follow-up. One of the things that I do is that I actually just did it in my newsletter this past month. I was shocked at the response I got to this. I posted my home services professionals in my newsletter with a link, and I think I had 15 people download that thing. That's shocking. That's a huge open rate. And so remember that after closing, this is what they look to you for. You know, you get phone calls all the time. Well, do you know a good painter? Do you know my garage door broke? Do you know somebody who can fix my garage door? I mean, you get that all the time. So again, you're establishing yourself as, you know, you're here to service them and their needs. Yes, ma'am.
For the newer agents, I'm assuming you have used all these people.
I have used every one of them on that
Right.
list.
So for those just starting out, what do you recommend, in addition to using our preferred vendors from the office, do you recommend they build a list based on other people's recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, if you're on the Rawls Facebook page and you see somebody looking for a plumber, and you know, you see 3 or 4 agents, you know, saying this plumber is awesome, yeah, write it down on there. And I think that on mine, I've actually got it further, it didn't work. I've got it further into the presentation here. On mine, I say at the top I've got a paragraph at the top that says either I've used them or some, you know, other people that I know have used them and they have got stellar recommendations. I always say, please let me know if you're using one of these vendors because they will take very good care of you. Now, for me, that's even more important because I'm in a BNI. A lot of my BNI people are on this list. And so, you know, I wanna know if they use them, because that's a referral that I can put into the system as a referral that I gave to one of my vendors. So in B&I, they measure referrals and, they measure a lot of things. So, and the other thing about the virtual introductions is when I can, I do like to make a virtual introduction. If somebody says, you know, I need to get my garage door fixed, it's broken. You know, I will send an email to the client and to the garage door person that says, hey, I've got a client, they have a broken garage door, can you help them? Why is that important? Anybody? It's, you're interested, you're servicing them, you're making sure they get special treatment. It's another touch. It's all about the touching and all about being the connector and all about being the person, you know, being the one that they turn to when they need anything. That's called top of mind. And so I do that, and I also do a lot of email follow-ups with this. I've got a list for home service professionals. I have a financial, and you'll see this one a little bit too, for financial services that I send out after the due diligence period. I will send this out to them. There is an estate attorney on there. There is a financial planner on there. There is a insurance person on there. These are all people that they're probably, I mean, people need to change that stuff, you know, when they move, or if they're having a child or whatever. If that's the reason that they're moving, they gotta change their will. So it's just, you know, again, it's a service. I've got another one that's for business services, and I've got a fourth that's for health. You get somebody that moved to the area, I give them my list of doctors that I know. I mean, again, it's just it's an added service. So it's 12:10. Stacy, is the food here?
Not yet.
Oh, all righty then. I'll keep going, let me know.
Any second now.
Okay, all right. So I'm about to move out of this into my, into the way that I run my buyer trips. Does anybody have any questions about my program? Yes.
Who does your artwork and your folder latest?
Your branding.
I did. That's, now, I've got a printer that printed these,
Yeah.
but I actually bought I bought this photograph. I had this logo when I had this logo 6 months into the business. I had this logo, and I've never come off of that logo. I've changed the color of the M, but I've never come off of the logo. This is just a photograph. That's the Keller Williams logo. That's a saying that I've had. Integrity in real estate has been my byline since day one. So, but I mean, I may have them, you know, if you say, okay, I want to do a folder, here are the elements I want on there, then I have a printer that will put it all together for me. But all this other stuff, again, 14 years, remember that. It's taken me 14 years. I've had some, this thing used to be blue, and then it was khaki for a while, and, you know, I mean, I've changed it, and this is my newer, fresher, updated look. You know, all I did really was change the colors. But I'm very, very consistent. And remember, I'm consistent on my materials, I'm consistent in my system, so I'm perceived as systematic, consistent, organized, and I think that is that's one of my unique selling propositions. And just so you know, my IMD is pretty even on the scale, but my C is just above the line. So I've got some analness in there. So,
Who created your logo?
I'm sorry?
Who created your logo?
A girlfriend of mine, way back when, but I've got a graphic designer. If you want, I can certainly put you in touch with one.
Sure.
Okay, preparation for buyer's trip, and we'll go until they tell us to stop. So, you guys, I'm not going to go a ton into detail about this, but I just kind of did want to show you my system. So I plan a trip using their personal website. I've already spoke to that. And then I route the trip. I print out all the agent full reports out. I route the trip. I figure out, the route that I want to go. And then I confirm the time with them. And I tell them when I confirm the time. It's important. We work by appointment only. I don't care if they're vacant. I tell everybody we work by appointment only. And so then, I'm always keeping them aware of my time, of our time, because I don't want to waste time. And really in the end, neither do they. And if you're not careful and if you don't really put an emphasis on that, they will waste your time. So I'm always, trying to support that. We work by appointment only. So I confirm the time with the buyer. Then I set the appointments. I don't set the appointments until I've confirmed that I'm meeting them at 1 o'clock. I tell them that I will get back to them, the day before or the morning of or whatever, and let them know where to meet me. But I confirm the time with them. Then I set the appointments up. Invariably, one of them's under contract, or I have to rearrange or whatever. So I don't set that until I've got everybody confirmed on timing. So I set the appointments right before I send them, right before the trip. Okay, it might be the night before, or it might be the morning of. I don't know about you all. I do not use the Cloud CMA. Don't use it. For a lot of different reasons. I do use the Cloud Buyer Trip. It's actually a really cool tool. It helps get them excited. And wouldn't you know, it's loading up over here. Okay, so let's see if I can do this. Yay. So they get it in their email. And one of the things that I tell them is that I'm going to give you a printout of the trip when you get in my car, but beforehand I'm going to send you all the properties that we're looking at. This way, and I tell them this is a tool that you can use if you would rather write your notes about the stuff electronically, because this is something that they can pull up on their phone or their tablet. And one of the things that I really like about this,
what's the tool? Like, is this part of the MLS?
it's part of the Cloud CMA. You'll see under Cloud CMA, there's a tab that says Buyer Tours. So one of the things that I like about this is you've got all these arrows right here. If you click down, so this goes to the next property, but if you click this down arrow, check this out. So this is where they can write their notes. They can rate it. There's all the pictures. Here's the schools, restaurants.
And all of that comes through the cloud?
All of that comes through the Cloud CMA Buyer Tour. One of the things that's not on here that I don't know why it's not, and maybe they changed it, shopping was on here before. And I don't know, maybe it's not on here anymore. But this is just a cool thing to send
Yeah, that's
them.
cool.
They like it. It gets them excited about the trip. Now, word of warning, don't send this too early to them. Because what'll happen is they'll call you and say, well, did we see this house instead of that house? You guys have already set the trip up. That's why I'm saying, do it right before. Try not to do it, don't do it the day before. Do it right before, okay? So I send them this, all right? Oh, that hurts. And then I print out, this is where I print out the map, which is this, okay? And then they've got their the buyer full report behind it in order that we're going to see it. I've also gone in here like on this one right here, I went ahead and pulled townhomes in Roswell. I would probably meet them right here at 400. I would meet them here, and I would probably drive them all the way to the farthest point, and then I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I would have that numbered on there, and I would probably go down here and number them here too. And I hand that to them in the car. Now, one of the things that I want to point out here, which is actually in my CMA class, but I'm going to tell you guys, I don't know why people don't do this. I'm going to go off and people like I was crazy. But I've got this on here on mine, because I have the same one, but mine's got agent full. On mine, I have the CMA, the quick CMA for the neighborhood on the back of every agent full report.
So, how do you do this?
No, you have to do it separately.
Okay, so I was gonna say you do them ahead of time.
Yeah, I do it all ahead of time. But I do that because what happens when you're driving through the neighborhood?
They want to
And they're
know.
like, why is it that one on my corner? You know? And so you can look at it and say, because it's out of your price range, or it's pending, or it's whatever. Or they're in there and they're like, love this house, we want to make an offer on it, which I never answer that question, by the way. You know, what should we do? I'll just say, well, I gotta go home, I gotta do some more homework, but the range in here is this to this. I just tell them the range, and I've got the range right here because it's on the CMA. And it's an easy thing to do. Why not do it? You got stuff at your fingertips, you know, versus getting on your phone. Whoops, I wasn't supposed to say that about Kelly, was I? Sorry. I'm glad Bonnie's not in here. She was. No, but.
Better things are coming, better things.
Right, but I'm just saying, for a very quick reference, you're not having to pull anything up. This is a beautiful thing to do it that way.
And shows a great value add.
Right.
That will set you apart.
Right. So.
We are almost ready for lunch.
Okay.
We are ready for lunch, so how do you wanna?
I can, I'll tell you what, yeah, let's go ahead and, that's fine. When we come back, we'll finish up about the buyer's trip. I'll talk a little bit about contract to close. And then we will, I'll show you guys some of my marketing that I do afterwards. As I said, I've got folders up here. If you all want to take a look at that, there's 8 folders. Please don't walk out of the room with these and don't get any pizza or salad on them. But you feel free and keep them in order if they're in, because I do kind of grab these.
So we have pizza and salad, it's in the workroom. Make a plate and come back in here so that we can
Yeah, because we
get
don't
back
have a
to
lot
it.
more time.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
oldest
just-
one, Hannah, is in La Paz, Bolivia. She's good, took her contract out there. She left in July, she'll be back next week. And then I think she's gonna go to France and live in Paris. Emma is in her sophomore year in some state.
See, but a lot of
Sent me a
it
video, so I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry, no idea what that is. That's the last one I got to do that one. But,
You start out
Amazing, right? They've been doing everything from paint to flooring, tile, hardwood. We subcontract plumbers, electrician, you know, anything that's outside our scope, we just subcontract. But please, so think of us, please, when we have clients who are really. Oh, you do too? Also, if you need everybody. Well, and if you get in a position where your painter gets sick or something, call me, and maybe we can fill in.
Okay, I'm gonna have to address that because some of this stuff is like, from perspective copyright.
Yeah, should give me some of this.
Yeah, I will.
He's all, you guys all over the city.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So everybody's asked.
Oh, and I plugged you,
I need you to address how you want your narrative respected. So,
this is so nice, look at this.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so neat.
I know, and I should have said.
The whole package is off the charts.
Right after, school supplies. Oh, everyone, I'm not, yeah, I went and bought all, they had all these red ones, I bought like 30.
I did too.
But even while you were talking, people would take pictures of slides and like,
Do you now want us to do that? I know when we did it.
Not really, I really don't, you guys, I've
Okay.
worked on this for 15 years.
yeah, this is
No,
really
that's why I was,
proprietary.
that's why I was asking, that's why I.
Proprietary.
At the beginning that you were, back when I took it, you said it was okay to take a few pictures, sorry.
Yeah, and I probably should have told you what it's okay to take pictures of and what it's.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
That's okay, I mean, again, it's more about,
The content.
keeping it in your,
Yeah, I mean, I would never, I just like your,
yeah.
like what you're
very
putting
well
in it, so it
organized,
just
yeah.
gives me ideas of how to do it myself. I would never.
Stacy.
Yeah, let me see
Do
what I took
anything
in picture.
verbatim.
I think it was more just like the order.
Okay,
do you mind if I have that?
just the client portal? Yes, I agree with you, Marty.
Because I know there's more to it than
That's fine.
Exactly, and then.
I wouldn't even have the
secondarily,
talent or the ability to do this
we're gonna
stuff.
have a class
Yeah, this is very, but this is what,
Just to kind of
within
get
the
the
class,
words.
you say other things you can do besides the class, you know, that like that higher
Right.
training, because Kevin, he will just recently making, I didn't even know it was there.
So it's not
Yeah,
even
no,
worth
no,
it.
no, it's
I wanna
fine.
make sure I don't have any ones with what it has and then the appointment.
That's what we said, I told everybody to do.
To take a picture,
Yeah.
that's okay, okay. Oh, you need, I just.
Well,
I
I
think
think,
I have mine.
I know we have one
Tonight and all that. I was just sort of seeing.
create six things.
That's fine.
It's tissue papers.
You should have said something at the very beginning.
Okay, I think
Sometimes I have a buyer that, you know, they want to do a very specific thing, and I'll go into that. And so I have been known to do this, send something to all the, houses in the neighborhood, and this is how I send it.
These girls get on my nerves.
Yeah, it was, I just didn't want to, I just didn't want to.
No, I was,
Yeah,
I was ready
I
to
think
do
so
it.
that in everybody's.
Yeah, because what it does
Did you
is.
ready for let you?
Oh, my gosh.
I think that's yeah, that's very When you do it, do you ever have anybody else there with you?
I have the lender too. So we're actually doing it more like a workshop this time instead of a classroom and talking to people, so they're.
Smart age.
And then these are all color copies. They have that here. They have it here for you. You have to ask for it. But you only want to use the color copies.
How's it going?
Going good, how about with you?
Good.
Well, it's nice.
Yeah,
Foot traffic.
They actually have 28 and they have cheaper Some of them, yeah. And I encourage everybody from the home services to give me this stuff. You know, to give me these things and I'll put it in my folder. Yeah. Yes, I just changed what's in here. Or maybe it's all about, it's the, you know, getting your home sold. Yeah.
Sophisticated it is.
You're welcome. Yes.
What I like about she's got.
Yeah, please. Yep, that I do not care.
Okay, that's kind of what
Yeah, no, Oh, please, go ahead, absolutely. And I'm just gonna have a, you didn't discuss all of it?
Jennifer, what have you been up to, honey?
Not too existing, but I'm
Doing this?
looking forward to seeing the rest of it.
Okay, well, yeah, this is something.
What about you, Same sort of like.
Yeah, just right.
All right. Those,
Yeah, I had
I put those people on there, but this is, and again, I think I'm gonna show you guys a link to mine. I
definitely don't.
Just that,
Single ones. Yeah. I really kind of upped it. I upped my game on
You
that.
just have office that are moving, but.
Yeah, but this is important, and I'll show you guys all about it.
Do you want me to wait for that?
No, go ahead, you can go ahead and.
I do all the.
It's fine.
This is, to me, this is like when I'm old.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
but I'm gonna say the same thing to you. Let them know that I referred you to them.
Yes.
I'm sick of it.
I know.
It's gotta be done.
Now, do you? Do you give this to us?
It definitely is, that's why I'm tired now.
What's on my list?
No,
I do it for the buyer contract, yes, I do.
Even if they don't sign.
Yes, I do. They usually sign. If they don't, I mean, I have a good sense of when they're gonna sign.
Because you're giving away,
I think in 14 years, I did one where they didn't.
I always, try to write down
Yeah.
you know, because it's like it went for 3 people. Like this is like most, not necessarily that person.
And this is nice too.
Yeah, so.
Thorough. Right, yeah.
Oh, they got brand new bikes.
Right. Are you on let me, you know what, that or I can put it up on the screen. Whatever you wanna do, take a picture.
Because that, I don't have that, I tell people that. It's a good thing to,
No, because I'm not gonna eat while I'm talking.
Well, get salad, it's that big salad.
Yes, I already have green in my teeth. But thank you.
No, this is, I like how you. Hello, hi. How are you? Good. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna address that right when I first, with regard to that, because one of the things that I wrote down was emails and other things that I used to keep in my page, that I didn't want to spend money on anymore, like the buyer, the KW and all of that. So now I have email tickets that I send them. Yeah, did you get email?
I know, it's not her wife. It's the most bizarre thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
This one is more detailed.
Yes, it is. It's different than the one,
But, and so, I'm not going to do that because mine's laid out different, but it's a little more detailed. And what I tend to do is everything, I tend to draw on those things that we have now. Instead of being printed, I write them and I write on it. As I go through.
So we'll get like within a month.
Oh,
Yeah, instead of, and I put in the numbers, like inspection 450, so that they have, you know, so that's, anyway, that's not.
Right. So, yeah.
It's a different approach, but I think.
I'm gonna.
So I'm gonna have him do that.
But now I'm like adding my edit.
No.
It needs to be done.
I haven't seen it, so.
Yeah, he's painting the whole thing and we put money out. So we did the backyard. And,
It wasn't much. but still,
Yeah,
it's,
so-
yeah, good.
So, but thank you so much for coming over and talking, because I just.
Somebody thinks something.
Pretty much knew it was unavailable.
Yeah.
This is pretty though, I like that.
I was just using it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna talk to people about this, about how much that costs. For the, it's a company called,
I just do Office Depot.
well, yeah, you could do Office Depot, yeah, we could talk about, yeah, I'll talk about that.
It's good.
So, it was almost. Thank you. You couldn't do it?
I'm not this polished. I'm not this polished.
It works for you.
But I'm always impressed.
I have to get away with
Stacy told me to come on.
Stacy, can you go, can you?
How I was wondering where you went. I was hoping there was anything next to you. I didn't want to steal.
You know, see if they're more than.
Yes.
Thanks. Gosh, I'm putting my shoes off. Teach this class.
Hey, Mia,
Yes.
what's your split between listings and buyer clients?
50/50.
50/50.
I've always been 50/50.
And how many
I'm pretty
buyers?
consistent. Sometimes I'm 60/40, one way or the other.
Yeah, but roughly, that's your ideal, huh?
Yeah.
And about how many buyer clients do you handle at any one time? Do you have like a limit?
Well, that can get dicey. You have to be really careful about that.
Yeah, so how many do you typically carry?
Well, not typically, when I'm busy, you know, I've worked with last summer, oh God, I thought I was gonna kill myself. Last summer, I think I was working with 7 at a time.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Wow, it was crazy. But I had a good year last year.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
No, 7 buyers.
Driving them for about 3 to 4 hours. You roll these, driving, you don't just end it.
I'll talk about that in just a second.
Yeah.
Yes.
Will you talk more about like buy and sell and if you have those, right?
Yeah, we can, when we get to the end of the class, yeah, I can do that. Well,
Or is that?
which one you do first?
Well, just kind of how you approach that.
What I generally do is I try to get we get everything going on the listing, not necessarily, I'm staging, photography, all of that stuff, and I'm like, let's get it ready to go. And then sometime just before I list it, I'll take them out on a buyer trip, because I want them to stay excited about that.
Right.
You know, so that's why I'll do it that way. And then the day that we list, I will generally put them in my car. Yeah, especially if it's a Saturday. You know, I want them to be out of the house. Hey, you all.
It's a Saturday day.
If it's okay with you, we're gonna start that. I've had several people. Okay, y'all ready? I've had several people ask me about these folders and about the cost of this. First of all, let me tell you that back when I was doing in Ignite, I was doing the buyer consultation class. I actually had 3-ring binders that I used, and I had a lot more information in these folders than I've got in these now. Remember the email that I did in the very beginning with the bio and the KW thing? And you're gonna see some other stuff now when we're getting into follow-up. I have taken a lot of it out and I've turned it into emails. All of these emails that you saw up there, I've got in the system. All I have to do is plug the name in and shoot them the email. I don't have to change anything. It's all, I may have to change a sentence or two, but it's there. I don't have to think about it. And the attachments are ready to go. So I've got a lot less in here. So I've cut down on my expense color copy wise. Let me give you all a little piece of information that I think a lot of people don't know. This past year, and actually the year before, you got a card for Office Depot from the National Association of Realtors. It is shocking how much of a discount we get. The color copies, I mean, they went from like 55 cents a copy, they're like 15 cents. It's cheaper to do your color copies there than it is to do it here.
At Home Depot?
Office Depot. At Office Depot, or I think Office Max is the same way. At Office Depot, people ask me about the paper that I've got this on. This is 25 pound. Our office has got this. If you want to do some good quality color copies, they've got this. You just have to ask for it. But at Office Depot, they have 28 pound. But you have to ask for it. But they'll give it to you. So if I were you, I'd go to Office Depot. These folders cost about $3, somewhere between $3 and $3.50 each. I got 150 of them.
The discount came from NRA?
NAR.
NAR.
Yeah. There's a.
We need members for both.
So my point being that this is very polished looking, but it's actually the least expensive thing I've done since I've been in this business.
Is that Office Depot?
No, this was another printer that I have, but Office Depot, actually it was Susan I was just talking to.
I use it all the time. They're fantastic.
Yeah, their printing is amazing.
Yeah.
So you can get this from Office Depot. Be careful of the stock. Be real careful with it. Make sure that you've got a good stock. Make sure that you touch and feel what you're getting before you get it. But they can do this for you. I'm not sure about the die cuts for the business card. That I don't know about. But you guys, we've got some really great quality Keller Williams folders. Just use that. You can use that and you're fine.
And they're on the MyKW landing page, towards the upper right, there's a preferred vendor or Keller Williams approved vendors, and there are all kinds of vendors all over the country that do printing and stuff, and they already have the right Keller Williams red. So
yeah. If I were you, I'd get
right
the
there.
white folders with the red. I mean, just because what if your logo is green? Then you look like a Christmas tree. Just be cognizant of that.
I was going to say, Vistaprint also does Keller Williams colors, and they always have coupons.
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways you can do it. The other thing that somebody asked me about was this note card that I had in my folders. This is actually a way, and I didn't put it in this presentation, I forgot about it. But this is a way that it's a value added thing. This was I had a couple that were very interested in just this one specific neighborhood, and it was small, and you know what the inventory is. I'm reaching out because I have a couple that absolutely loves your neighborhood, Gates at Vinings. We've been watching for a while and have looked at everything available. I'm writing in hopes that you might be interested or know a neighbor that is interested in selling. And so, please call me to discuss the possibility. My card is enclosed. So notice it's on one of my note cards. It's, I printed it on my printer. It's just, it's not, how you'll get like a piece of notebook paper, or they try to make it look like it's handwritten, a folded note in an envelope. This is one step above, and it says, I'm serious. And the reason that I put it in these buyer folders, this is one of the ways that I start explaining about the inventory. Because it's one thing to say that, you're going to get in my car for, 3.5 hours. We're going to probably do 1 or 2 of those trips, and then the inventory is going to be exhausting. So we're either going to have to rearrange your, criteria, or we're going to have to start doing one-offs. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a minute. But I kind of let them know with that. I'm talking the whole time and setting the expectations about the market that we're in now. and the, you know, the fact that, you know, if you wanna be in that very specific neighborhood and somebody is, you know, something comes on the market, you gotta get over there that day. And I will find a way to get over there, to meet them over there, or I will pay another agent to do it. I never say no to that in this market.
Typically, how many buyers are you working with at a given time?
Depends on, like right now, I only have 2. But last summer, I was working with 7 at one time. And that was, I didn't like that. Yeah, that was way
Is that
too
better?
much.
Yeah, well, do you mind, ma'am?
Nope, no, we're good. So, all right, continuing on with the buyer trip. So, y'all, first of all, I do establish if they're getting into my car or are they gonna follow me. If they've got kids and they've got 3 car seats or 2 car seats, they're gonna be following me. They're not gonna get into my car. But if they are getting into your car, clean your car for God's sake. You know, get the crumbs out of there. You know, don't have a bunch of junk in the back seat. If you do, stick it in your trunk. I mean, just, you know, it's your office, you know, and again, you're being the organized one. So it's just a good thing to do. If it's in the middle of the summer, I have a soft side cooler. I always put water in my car, and I offer them water. If I've got an out-of-town buyer, I had 2 out-of-town buyers in the last couple of months, and one of them had 2 kids, and the other one had 4. So on the one that had 2 kids, actually, we ended up just taking one of them on the trip, and she was the cutest little girl, and because she had come to the consult, and I thought about her, I don't know, sitting in the back of the car, and so I went out and I bought a little teddy bear for her, and I buckled it in just like this. This is a teddy bear, and I buckled it in. So can you imagine? You know, these people got into my car, and I've got a little friend for their little girl, and so most of that day was trying to figure out what we were going to name the bear with this, Alice. And so, you know, just little teeny things like that. Drinks and snacks, I don't do a bunch of junk food. I usually go out and I get, you know, fruit, and I put it in bags, and I'll do fruit, and I'll do some crackers, some peanut butter crackers, and I don't go totally overboard, but I do put some stuff in there, especially if there are kids. That is the one way to keep kids happy, not crying, put food in their mouth. So I really use that a lot, especially if I'm going to be with them more than 3 hours, I do that. And then this is a bag that I have in the back of my trunk. If I've got 2 buyers in my car, I have 2 umbrellas. If I have 3 buyers in my car, I have 3 umbrellas. However many buyers are in my car, I've got that many umbrellas. My bag has got toilet paper, paper towels. I've got a tape measure in there. I've got one of the Sherwin-Williams paint chip books. You know, anything that you're going to, and I usually end up bringing it out, you know, at some point on one of my trips. So it's just a good thing to have in the back of your car. When they first get into my car, I always explain the route. I'm handing them that printout that I showed you all. I'm showing them the route that we're going to go. We're going to go here, 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 and here. Everything's in order as we're going to it. I just explained that. I always use my GPS even if I know where I'm going, because I'm talking to them. And you know, I sometimes can multitask better than I can if I'm chewing gum no matter what. I'm really careful to always use my GPS. And on top of that, we know how traffic is these days, and it's just always a good idea to use Waze. But I do keep it on silent. I do not want it interrupting me. So my GPS is always on silent. I remind them when they get in my car, we are working by appointment. I'll let you know if we get, you know, behind, or if we can spend a little bit more time in a particular house. You know, again, I'm kind of keeping them on track of the time, because as you know, there are buyers that they'll walk in the front door and they say, I don't want this house. Yeah, no, let's go ahead and go look at the, you know, all 5 floors of
For
it.
40 minutes.
Yeah, but they don't like it the minute they walk in the door. You know, I will let that happen on the first trip. On the first trip, I give myself more time, because I'm really paying attention to what they like, what they don't like, and I tell them this. This is not stuff I'm just telling you. I tell them this. I've allowed us a little bit more time. I want you to talk to me as we go through the house. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. As I get into it and we're getting further and further into the process, I will book shorter and shorter appointments, and I will say to them, when I pick them up, when they get in my car, all right, we're going to see in 10 houses today. If we walk into a house and you don't like it, I do not want to tour the house. We're going to turn around and walk out, because we're on a very tight schedule. I sound bossy, you all, but I don't, but I couch it in a way that says we need to make the most of our time together. We've got this period of time. I've kind of overbooked us a little bit, because I'm banking on there being some houses that you won't like. You know, I've never pissed anybody off either, that I know of. Yes?
Do you address the latest phenomenon of video and audio recording equipment inside the houses in terms of couching your comments?
Never talk about price relative to the home you're in until you get in the car. This is something that I talk to them about. It's the 5th bullet down. That's when I talk to them about that. I tell them that in a lot of the houses, they're not recording, and they have to be really careful about what they say. And if they walk into a house and they love it, that's great. Love it. We can talk about the different features and benefits, but I do not, if they really love it, I do not want to talk about price in the house. I don't ever talk about price or negotiation in the house, in a house that you love. So that's how I address that, is that I do talk about it. They're always shocked, which I don't know why, because they probably have got the same thing in their house, but be courteous to other agents and their sellers, you guys. You know, there's a lot of really rude agents out there. And, you know, one of the things that I've been known, do I do this with everybody? No, but I've been known to, if it's pouring down rain outside and you're in looking at a house and, you know, it's just not a situation where you think it's going to matter too much, I will ask my buyers if it's okay to let the other agent and their buyers in the house while they're looking around. I do that because it's courteous. Is it really going to matter? I mean, it's okay. I mean, if it's a house that they love and we're really looking at, maybe I'm not going to ask that. But, you know, I'm courteous that way. I'm courteous. The other day I walked into a house and there was I could tell that there was a leak because there was a wet spot on the floor and there was a water stain up there. I called the agent while I was in the house. I want you to know that there's a water leak going on there. You probably need to get over here. So if I see something that's of concern, I'm going to call the other agent. I do it in front of my buyers because that underlines my professionalism. I'm polite to other agents that we run into, and you know, and if we're running late, I always call the other agent and say, and even if I'm just leaving a message, just wanted to let you know we're running about 30 minutes late. I'm sorry, we'll get there as soon as we can. That again keeps time top of mind with your clients. So just a couple of tips. Oh, and then the last thing that I do, so we've done the tour. Before they get out of the car, I confirm with them verbally what we're doing. Okay, I'm going to go home and I'm going to pull these comps, and you know, and I'm going to get this to you. And you'll look at it. When are you going to get back to me? or if we haven't found anything that they like, or I'll say I'm gonna change the search criteria. I always confirm the next step with them.
You mean at the end of the day?
At the end of the day, at the end of the buyer's trip, I confirm the next step with them. And if that means that we gotta do another buyer's trip, I get the calendar out. I learned this is sales 101 from like 30 years ago. I get the calendar out and say, okay, when can we go out again? And I get them on the calendar. I don't spend a lot of time with my buyers. I usually get them under contract pretty darn quick. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. But the reason is because I'm treating this, yes, I'm servicing them, but for me it's a business, and I want to get them under contract with the house that they want to buy as soon as possible. And so there's always follow-up for me. I rarely do I have trouble I always have the next step with them in my car. And I always have the next appointment if we haven't found one that we want. Questions?
Well, a lot of showing agents will say, have the tricks and rate them 1, 2, 3. Which house was your 1, 2, and 3 today? Or an envelope system and all that.
We're usually talking about that as we come to the end of it. We do talk about that, and it's funny. A lot of buyers, you don't have to encourage them to talk about that. They talk about it. Because remember, you've given them the tools to talk about it. They've got their tablet, or they've got something they're writing on. Husband and wife are talking. So it's always, it's a conversation that I am involved in. So I'm really aware. So rarely do I have to have them summarize it, because it's a conversation throughout. Okay, so you find the house, you get them under contract. I'm going to tell you right up front, I use a contract to close coordinator, because last summer, there is no way, with 7 buyers, and I think at one point I had 7 buyers and 5 listings, was I going to be able to do a good job with contract to close. And remember how anal I am. So it's really important for me not to cut corners with this stuff. So, Darren and I have an agreement. I don't care how busy he gets. Susan, you probably have the same agreement with him. Is that this thing right here, this reminder of important dates, this goes out immediately. As soon as he, I just tell him, I'm like, confirm you got the contract and give me this contract, give me this date thing. Because remember, the whole time, I'm keeping them aware of dates and timelines and deadlines. He sends them this, I follow up with a phone call. Okay, let's talk about these dates. I don't just like send it to them and go, okay, be aware. I'm constantly hammering deadlines and time limits. I talk about how important it is that they do everything that Matt says that they do. Get the documents that he needs, get everything in as quickly as possible. I repeat the thing about the drinking from a fire hose. This first 10 days or first 7 days is going to be the hardest piece of this. Once you get through this whole process is going to get a lot easier, except for the fact you got to have me. But I say that. So I really, keep talking about that during the due diligence period. I kind of take that bull by the horns. I make sure I get the inspection scheduled the minute we're under contract, and then I think we're going under contract. I get the inspection scheduled as soon as I can. If we're getting a survey, I get that. I get the HOA docs. I get everything that they're going to want in their due diligence period and get it to them as fast as I possibly can. And then I just talk to them about the inspection negotiations and all of that. After the due diligence, and Darren helps me with this, I make sure he actually sends the utilities out for me. This is when I send the trusted financial professionals that I've got, and I keep that. I send them that with an email, which I did not link to in here. Again, remember, all my emails are templates. I don't have to think about this. Just in case you had a will you wanted to, your will you wanted to change, or you need to talk to about a financial planner about, you know, the way you're doing this or whatever, here's my list of trusted professionals. It's a service, and you're giving a referral to a financial planner. I gotta tell you, I get referrals from my financial planner, and she knows a lot of real estate agents. But I get referrals from her because I give her referrals because I do this. And then, of course, I keep in touch with the lender throughout. That's a no-brainer. I do find out the moving plans and the date, and I'll tell you why I got that in a second. I think that it's, you know, again, on my home services professionals, I've got College Hunks Moving on there, and in that folder, there is a coupon from College Hunks Moving. And so I just make sure that they're all taken care of. Moving is one of those services that you will find that they will shop. They usually shop that. So, but I'm just making sure that they're taken care of. And then Darren sends out the invitation to closing, and one of the things that I love that he does is he sends them directions via a text to the closing attorney, which I think is a pretty cool thing to do. You know, do you need to do all of these things? No, you don't. There's nothing on this particular list right here that is, you know, mandatory to the transaction. Again, it's all value added and good service. And then after the closing, I send them the closing statement as soon as possible. As you know, a lot of the water water companies, they have to have a copy of the HUD statement. So I always ask about that before the closing. You know, have you got the information? Have you got the application and the information on your you know, getting the water hooked up? They usually say yes. I say bring that to closing. You will fax or email a PDF of that closing statement from the closing table to the water department. So I make that as easy as possible. Darren sends them the closing statement as soon as possible. I send out this homestead exemption within a week of the closing. Again, it's templated. Just, you know, a quick reminder about homestead exemption. No, you won't be able to take advantage of it until the 1st of next year, but it's good to go ahead and get it off your plate while you're thinking about it. This is the attachment right here, and one of the things that I want to show you is that these are live links. This is a PDF, and I have done live links to every county for homestead exemption. This is easy. Easy peasy.
If they are Gmail the same as you, do you put a calendar reminder and invite them to it for maybe the first year? You do that or not?
No, but it's a good idea. It's a good idea to do that. My moving day meal, that's one of the reasons why I want to know about that. They've got kids, I'm going to send pizza on moving day. If it's a couple that's newly married, I'm going to go to the pie hole and give them a homemade chicken pot pie and a nice bottle of wine and deliver it to their house. There's nothing better than smelling up that house on the first night that they're there with the chicken pot pie. I cannot tell you how much play I did on that. I mean, people love that. If I have time, I will also get like a store-bought salad and a dessert. Sometimes I have time, sometimes I don't. I do deliver that. I hand deliver that. Yeah, so that's what I do. And then 2 weeks after, I ask for testimonials. I wait for a couple of weeks because there's a lot of stress going on in most cases. This is my email for that. I actually create, now you guys, I want you to know something. I just started doing this, so I don't, and one of the reasons that I started doing it was that I realized that my online presence sucked. It's not something that I've ever worked on. Stupid, maybe, but I'm just now starting to get with the program. And so I'm now starting to actively ask for testimonials. I provide links to Zillow and to Google, requested links. I want to make it as easy as possible. So I'm actually going back in the last 2 years and going back to the people I'm comfortable saying, okay, so I was a little off my game, but, can you give me testimony from 2 years ago? I'm gonna do it, you know, because I mean, it's important, it's an important piece of, I actually Googled, last night, what did I Google? I Googled, buyers, I Googled something about buyers. And because I have, I think 10 or 11 Google reviews, I came up 3. I was number 3. I was so excited. I mean, you know, I was just, yeah, I mean, it was exciting to me that I actually, because I mean, I've never paid attention to it. So it was pretty, and the only reason I came up 3 was because in the very first email, buyers and sellers, and so I had buyers in there, so that's why I came up. So anyway, I don't know. So that's what I do after closing. Any questions on that? Staying top of mind. All right, neighborhood website. Let's talk about that for a second. The portal that you all have, that we all have access to. I always take their portal down and I reestablish it with their neighborhood search. I have just their neighborhood on there. I put actives, pendings, and solds for the last year. I put those on there so that it's a revolving 12 months. And I tell them, I'm setting this up so that you can keep up to date with what's going on in your neighborhood. And so those people love that. We do have to remind them that they have to keep clicking on the link or it's going to go dormant, which is very irritating. But I do remind them of that. So, you know, that is an automatic. I don't touch that thing. It's automatic. Yes, ma'am.
How often do you have that go out as things become active, or once a month, certain time of day?
I do it, unless it's in a really big, crazy neighborhood, I do it every day. I do the everyday thing. If it's a big, like if you're looking at Vinings Estates, that one I would probably do once a week. I'd probably do that one once a week. And I might ask them, do you want this once a week? Once a month? How would you like this? But I like kind of doing the once a week thing. Again, remember, your name comes through your email box. It's not about whether they click on the link, although it's a pain if they don't, because you've got to take the time to reactivate it. But it's your name going through their email. The other thing that I do is I am let's talk about my newsletter. Okay, so I take a lot of pride in my newsletter. My newsletter is, I actually distribute this through Constant Contact. This was my newsletter from October. That's the day of the dead skull, just in case you guys didn't know. So this was my newsletter from this month. I always, I got kind of a thing here about, it's my intro paragraph, telling them what I've got down here. I'll come back to the Day of the Dead thing in a minute. This is something new on FMLS, and I'm about to turn you all on to something that you are going to love. Now I gotta remember what the name of it is.
Well, Market Snapshot and
no, but it's not
InstaShot or something like that.
It's called, I'll get it for you in a second, but you guys check this out. You click on that link, check that out. This is what's happened in Milton versus Alpharetta versus Roswell versus Johns Creek. These are the average sales price from 2017 to 2018. I had a ton of clicks on this stuff. This is pretty cool. And you can do a PDF or you can do a live link. Over here, I'm going to figure out what the name of that thing is.
Is this under the stats?
Is that just market stats? This is enough.
No, it's something totally different. Hold on a second, I'll get you the name of it. This is new. In fact, it's not in the normal menu yet. It's called, InfoSparks.
What?
InfoSparks.
Sparks?
Sparks. S-P-A-R-K-S.
What tab is it under? I think
It's not even on the tab yet, it's on the first page. You get into FMLS, it's on the first page. Scroll down to the bottom, Susan. Scroll down to the bottom. Let me show you another one. Here, you guys, I'll do it right here. Hold on. This is so cool.
It's under market stats. It's under market stats.
Okay, well, I get to it down here. Try it now. That's how I've been getting to it. But this is very cool. You can do, there's so many different ways to do it. You've got the option to do 4 different areas up here. You can do sales, median sales price, average sales price, days on market. This is, you can do a line graph, you can do a bar graph, you can go back 2 years, 3 years, 1 year. You can go back, you can do a rolling 12 months, rolling 3 monthly, year to date. It's really a cool little tool, but what was really cool about it was the fact that I was able to link to these average days on market. And I looped these, Sandy Springs, Brookhaven, Dudley, and Peachtree Corners. And, on my newsletter, I'm real, again, I'm creative, but I'm kind of anal about this too, about the way that I always have something real estate related up in the top one. And then I have something about home and garden here. Here what I did, I want you to watch this, fall home maintenance checklist. What I did was I went out and I looked at all the fall home maintenance checklists and I gathered, but you guys don't have to do this, okay? There's plenty of fall home maintenance checklists out here, okay?
A lot of home warranty companies will send them out.
Yeah.
Inspectors.
Just, you can actually, like, this is something that I always put in there. See, this goes to a link, Walter Reed's Gardening, what to do in the month of October. This is that, I remember I told you guys I went from 2 pages to 3. This is it, what it looks like now. That thing was crazy, how many links I got on that.
Does that click to your website?
No, it's going to Constant Contact. If you're going to do something like this, you need to use, well, if you're going to have something this interactive, y'all, I use this a lot. This is like one of my main sources of keeping top of mind. Sam Underwood with eTouch Marketing does these newsletters through Constant Contact. You don't have to put the work into it that I put into it. She does a great newsletter. She will send it out. You will never have to touch it. It goes out once a month. Do this.
Now, where is she at?
eTouchmarketing.com. I also do a design one here. These are links to all these different, these are not links to, this isn't branded. These are going to different, links. Yeah, this is our lifestyle blueprint. So here's all these, just to a link to an article. And then down here, I've got a guide to the Apple Festival. I mean, all these things that have to do with October. Up here, the Day of the Dead, that link right there. Now, this was something that I've learned recently. So even if you guys go to eTouch Marketing and you have her do your newsletter, one of the pieces of advice that I will give you about this, personalize the intro. Put something personal in there. I will tell you that this is going to sound weird, but I have to say it was the highest open rate and click-through rate I ever got. My father passed away in January. He was a Vietnam vet. So on Memorial Day, I put a picture of him in my newsletter, and I had done the eulogy, and I had written a beautiful eulogy, and in there, that eulogy was a story about something that happened to him in Vietnam and how it had carried through his life. And I put the link, I shared my eulogy with my database. They all know me. I bet you I got 30 or 40 emails. Now, is it a little morbid to do something like that? I was honoring my dad for Memorial Day. But it was personal. You know, I'm such a businessy person. That's why B&I works for me. B&I works for me because I'm not the agent that goes in there and does the huggy kissy. You know, I'm not real high I. I've got a little I in me. I mean, I'm high, but not a ton. And so I'm much more businessy. As you can see by my folders, I'm much more businessy. So the fact that I put something personal into that newsletter, I mean, it made me real to them. And so even if you do, there's all kinds of newsletter services out there. Do a newsletter. It's easy. You don't have to touch it, but always try to do something that's personal. In this one, I talked about the Day of the Dead altar. I'm actually, this is on my woo-woo side. I like Day of the Dead. This was an altar that I had done I had a big party. So I'm talking to them about how to do an altar. But this was my personal thing. It got more clicks than anything in my newsletter. And I've got up here a personal note from Mia. My point here is, what was my point? Oh yeah. My point here is, you know, if you're gonna do a newsletter, bring something a little personal into it. Personalize it in some way. People connect to that, even if, okay. This is another thing that I do. I do a monthly postcard. I find that these event ones are the best ones to do. E-Touch Marketing, Sam Underwood, she does these for you. It's not cheap. I only send it to 100 people because it's $1.75 a postcard. So I'm real careful about who I do that with. But I keep it around 100. So I do these. So the people that are, that I really want to keep, top of mind, they get my newsletter, they get a postcard, that's 24 touches, and then they get, anytime something happens on that website, their personal website, they get that also. And then of course, one of the things that this picture right here, it's on my Facebook page. I've got a business Facebook page. It's in LinkedIn. Whenever I can use it in LinkedIn, I use it in LinkedIn. I keep my branding consistent. I recently hired a company to do my social media because that is not my strong suit. Again, remember, not that touchy-feely here. So they do a lot. They post for me like every other day. At the beginning of the month, I go in there, I rearrange my posts, I personalize some of them, and then I forget about it for a month. And every 2 days, something gets posted to Facebook, and every 4 days, something gets posted to LinkedIn. And then personal touches, holiday cards, I usually send a Thanksgiving card out. Birthday cards, I send out cards for that, so I've got their birthdays plugged in to send out cards. It goes out automatically. You guys, do you hear a consistent theme here? Automatic, don't touch it. Just set it up and forget about it, except for doing a personal touch. I think that that's important. You can't do it with everybody, and you may not be able to do it in the beginning, but in the end, it's a good thing to do. And you guys, I think that.
Who does your social media? I mean, what company did you hire?
Back at You Media. It's called Back at You Media. So now that you all have seen this, I'm going to take you back to what I originally talked about. Extraordinary service is the result of anticipating the need and providing the solution before the customer requires it. Do you think that I've done that with this folder? I mean, from the minute they meet me, I'm addressing this. Do I do every step with every client? No. Every transaction, every client is unique, but for the most part I do. this is my system. This is my buyer system. And that is it.
Now, a couple of things. Is she not awesome? Do we not want to be Mia? Oh my gosh. Oh, you set the bar so high, and that's what I appreciated, that, and the consistency. Speak to your branded materials and kind of the copyrightness of it. In that no one is going to copy her materials.
Oh, well, first of all, I didn't leave it up there long enough, I think, for too many people to do it, but, yeah, okay. So, yes.
She has spent a lot of money.
This is 14 years of work. So all I'm asking is that you guys make, I don't have a problem with you guys. Somebody asked me for a list of everything that was in the folder. Who was it?
Yeah, Sean Denson.
Yeah, and I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to give you guys that. Just create your own. Use your own words. Make it yours.
But we're not going to send out her all her emails and stuff like that.
Just make it your words. And I don't have a problem with you going, okay, she did this email, this email, this email, these are the emails I'm going to do, or else I wouldn't teach this class. I believe that sharing your success makes you more successful, and I'm happy to share with you. We're just saying, don't copy it.
Not exactly.
Besides, I might sell it one day.
So, right, and so we're not all trying to be exactly like Mia. But what I want to talk about next is, okay, what are we going to do with all this great material and content? The first thing I want to say is, I don't want anybody running out there spending all the money that she has spent. She's at a different place than we are, For those that have been to Ignite recently, we say start with the free tools that we have, eEdge, those sorts of things. After you get some business and your bank account is happy, then you can explore the things you have to pay for outside of it. So you can be creative, and you could pull together a buyer packet. I mean, that's what I would love to see, is everybody work on a buyer packet that they're going to use consistently. Make one that you're happy with, and then, and let's talk about it or show it to your friends. And then, okay, I'm going to have 5 of them ready at all times. So let's that be our number one step, is everybody develop, and some of you may have it, but everybody develop the buyer package you're going to give to your buyer at the consult, and then, so how does that sound? I mean, because I don't want us to just sit here, take this in, and then go off and forget about it, because, whoo, she does a beautiful job. So I will email everybody, and a reminder that this is your homework, and because I want us to put it into practice. And this is a dialogue, talk to each other, because we're all here to be the best agents we can, serve our clients the best.
And thank you for putting this together.
Love to do it, love to do it. So I am going to get Kevin Theobald to do, from FMLS, to do a class on the whole cloud package of things from FMLS, the cloud, the CMA, the buyer tour, and that'll be coming up within a month. So, and we'll have it here. Oh, and y'all, you can also come on October 18th. There's a Matrix Basics, which is kind of like 101. Even though you probably all taken 101, this is a new class, so you can pick up 3 more free hours of CE credit.